Hey, is everybody ready for some lore? Because we've got it! Alan Scott, The Green Lantern #5 is written by Tim Sheridan with art by Kian Tormey, colors by Matt Hermes and Hi-Fi, and letters by Lucas Gattoni. The title of this issue is Red Scare. Alan charged his Green Lantern ring using the Red Lantern battery and is attacking Vladimir with all the fury he can muster. Vlad warns Alan that the Crimson Flame is too dangerous, that it always consumes anyone else who tries to use it. And even though it's only been a few moments, the flame's power is already taking a toll on Alan. It's killing him, which is why the Emerald Flame takes action. Derby was listening to the radio in his cab when he found out about Green Lantern falling powerless out of the sky last issue. He quickly ran to Alan's apartment, which was a wreck from the fight between the two lanterns. And then, just as it had done numerous times throughout history, the Emerald Flame within Alan's battery spoke. Derby brought the battery up to the roof of the building, and a bolt of emerald power shot out across the city, heading straight for Alan Scott. This is the Emerald Flame's way of helping Alan, because not only is it healing what the Crimson Flame did to his body, this is also the first time since the train crash that the Emerald Flame has communicated with Alan directly. Inside of Alan's mind, it takes the form of Jimmy and perfectly recreates the train car they shared just before the crash during Alan's origin story. Here, Alan finally gets to learn what we readers already knew. That eons ago, the Guardians gathered up all the ancient magic they could find and sealed it away in the heart of a star as a way to combat the chaotic nature of the universe they sought to protect. But over time, that magic, that star heart, developed sentience and intelligence. All of that is what we've known for decades, but what comes next is new. Because since the Starheart was now sentient and intelligent, that means it also developed the same emotions as any other life form. It was so lonely and desperate to break free that the Starheart eventually managed to force a small piece of itself out of its fiery prison through sheer force of will. This piece of the Starheart, this expression of the Starheart's willpower, is what would land on Earth and become the metal used to forge Alan's battery. And the Emerald Flame within that battery, the fiery will of the Starheart, would be attracted to Alan's own indomitable will. But willpower wasn't the only thing building up within that star. Billions of years of captivity had made the Starheart furious, and that smoldering rage became one with the fire burning on the outside of the star. And when the Emerald Flame's meteor managed to escape, the Crimson Flame erupted from the star in the form of a solar flare, and followed the Emerald Flame to Earth. There's a panel here that I feel like is going to confuse people for years to come, where the Emerald Flame talks about how it relates to the emotional spectrum. And I can see it being very easy to misread this as the Starheart itself being a category of power in the emotional spectrum, but it isn't. It actually relates to the emotional spectrum the same way every life form does. Again, the Starheart is a living thing and it has emotions. Sometimes pieces of the Starheart break off and come to embody those emotions. The Emerald Flame embodies the willpower of the Starheart, and the Crimson Flame embodies the rage of the Starheart. That means neither of the Golden Age Lanterns are drawing their power from the emotional spectrum. They're drawing their power directly from the emotions of the Starheart itself. There's a nice moment of affirmation where Alan says that he isn't anything special and can't imagine how some cosmic force could deem him worthy to wield great power. And the Emerald Flame tells him that it's the qualities that come second nature to Alan, the things about himself that he never thinks twice about, that make him worthy. His ability to hold power without giving into temptation or corruption, his willingness to sacrifice his own well-being to help others, his determination to use his power to help the world regardless of what the world thinks of him. That takes character. That takes willpower. As the Emerald Flame releases Alan's mind, it advises him to quickly convince Vladimir to fight by his side, because a much greater threat is coming for them both. When Alan wakes up, no time at all has passed since the bolt of green light struck him. His ring is fully charged, his wounds are healed, and the Crimson Flame has been purged from his body. Vlad is very surprised, especially by the fact that Alan seems so much more confident than he did a moment ago. Alan leads Vlad outside just in time for them both to see 5 pillars of energy that Vlad immediately recognizes as coming from the Crimson Flame. Apparently, without Vlad's knowledge, the Russian government had been experimenting on the Crimson Flame, trying to figure out how to give its power to more people, and the result of those experiments are a super team called the Crimson Host. It's important to note that while they're all powered by the Crimson Flame, they don't seem to have the same powers as a lantern. This guy, for example, the Proletary Ant, is an Ant-Man equivalent. Just look at him trying to push Alan's ring off his finger. It's adorable. Also, my favorite moment in this book is Vlad's reaction to seeing the Crimson Host for the first time. Now that the Crimson Host is around, the Russian government doesn't need the Red Lantern anymore. In fact, the Crimson Flame being tied exclusively to Vladimir had been something of a liability. And at least part of the Crimson Host's mission here seems to be to quote-unquote retire the Red Lantern with extreme prejudice. Their leader destroys Vlad's battery, which is bad news because his ring is running on fumes. Which should seem odd since we saw Vlad recharge last issue, right before his fight with Alan, so it hasn't been very long at all. Honestly, it probably hasn't even been a full hour since Vlad recharged. And he explains that as just one part of the Crimson Flame being wild and unpredictable. So I guess you never know how long a charge is going to last when the Crimson Flame is your power source. Regardless, they're not getting out of this without help. But Alan spent so much time pushing everyone away, insisting that he needs to work alone and burning every bridge. So when Vlad suggests Alan call his friends, Alan doesn't know what to say, because he isn't sure that he has any. Which is why it's so cathartic when the JSA show up and Jay just says, "Yes, you do. Of course you do." The JSA got called in by J. Edgar Hoover, because the Russian submarine that the Crimson Host used to get here was discovered abandoned off the coast of New York. There had been brief mentions of that mysterious sub throughout the last few issues, mostly on radio broadcasts, and I had thought it was going to be how Vlad got to the US, and maybe it was his secret base of operations while he was in New York, maybe even where he holds his victims before he kills them. They did talk briefly about the murders and Vladimir's plan while Alan was overflowing with Crimson Flame power. A lot of ideas were thrown out there without being explicitly confirmed, so take it all with a grain of salt, but Alan guesses that the purpose of the Red Lantern identity and of framing Green Lantern for multiple murders was to allow Vladimir to swoop in like a hero, defeat the evil criminal Green Lantern, take Alan's place in the JSA, and work against America from the inside. Maybe that was the real plan, maybe it wasn't. Vlad doesn't say one way or the other. I think it's equally possible that Vlad was sent to America to get him out of the way while the Russian military finished preparing the members of the Crimson Host. Either way, it's pretty clear that Vlad noticed Alan has a type. Every man Alan got close to looked a lot like him, like Johnny Ladd. And as we established last time, Vlad is in denial about that side of himself. He wants to be what society says is normal, and wants to pretend that being gay is just another lie he told to fool Alan for the mission. And when you think about that, Vlad killing a bunch of gay men who all look like him and were also close to Alan is some very on-the-nose symbolism for where he is in terms of accepting himself. And that's it! The stage is set for a big battle between the Justice Society and the Crimson Host, with the Green and Red Lanterns caught in the middle. Issue 6 is the end of this miniseries, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so we can experience the ending together. And while we wait for that, go to the comments below this video and tell me what you think of the additions made to the history of the Starheart. Does the origin of the Crimson Flame make sense? What do you think about the relationship between the Golden Age Lanterns, the Starheart, and the emotional spectrum? Tell me all about it, and I'll be back here soon with the grand finale. Until then, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.